鏡に映りし眺望よ。今ここに天地の真理を示せ。
Floating lake. Soft grass brushes against your face as you raise your hand to block the harsh sunlight in your eyes. As your surroundings gradually grow more distinct, you realize you are lying on the edge of a floating lake. Your body feels abnormally heavy. Taking a deep breath, you struggle to sit up. Did I fall asleep? Before you can clear the fog over your mind, you hear snippets of a conversation nearby.
準備の方はどうだ？
You look in the direction of the voice to see Luke standing in a pavilion, his gaze lowered. There is a man you don't recognize standing next to him. Luke, what's that man next to him? He's definitely not someone from your clan, but there's also no way an ordinary person could find their way here. But people all over the mortal realm claim there is an isolated lake known as the Floating Lake. Though it is a breathtaking landscape, it is nearly impossible to find. The Miao Luo clan has lived here in seclusion for generations, following the deity's guidance in protecting the mortal realm. Even though people have long been fascinated with the floating lake and the Miao Luo clan due to their rumors, ordinary people can't handle the spirit power here. Due to this, they can't even get close. The situation in front of your eyes is incredibly bizarre. You keep calm and continue listening to their conversation.
祭祀は10日後に執り行います。今回、シン君はご参加になりますか？
いや、属性に流れ出ている牧の件で明日から調査に出る。悪いが、祭祀には間に合わない。
As Divine Lord, Luke has always handled the infernal energy plaguing the world, so he often travels to the mortal realm, which isn't surprising. The ceremony of sacrifice they refer to takes place once every decade, and it is when the deity communicates new guidance to the world. As Divine Shaman of the Miao Luo clan, you will receive the oracle's edict at the ceremony of sacrifice. However, you haven't heard the deity's voice since the war between him and the infernal sovereign 500 years ago.
世俗を気にかけておいでなのですね。本当にお疲れ様です。ですが、ただ払うだけでは根本的な解決にはなりません。
言いたいことがあるなら言ってくれ。遠回しな言い方は好きじゃないんだ。
The man pauses, his expression turning solemn.
500年前の神魔大戦では、神が全ての神力を使ってもマソンを封じることしかできませんでした。またその後、神は属性に落ちたとされていますが、我々が500年探し続けても未だ見つけられていません。魔気を完全に払えるのは神力のみ。そしてこの属性では神君だけがその力を行使できる。となれば神君こそが地上に落ちたという神なのではないでしょうか。
Luke glances at the man, his expression as cold as unmelted snow in winter. The man seemingly feels the intimidation wafting off him. He stumbles backward, lowers his head, and behaves more respectfully. No, whoever that isn't Luke. Even though he wears his face, this person doesn't carry any of Luke's emotions whatsoever. To be more accurate, you can't sense any emotion from this Luke at all. Where am I? And who are they? The conversation continues, and you shift your position ready for anything that might happen.
お前たちはずっとそのことを聞きたかったのだろ
ええ。神君は新緑をまとっておりますが、神の気配は感じられません。もしその身分を隠しておられるなら、きっと何かしらの理由があるのでしょう。ですが、世俗に迫る危機に対し、我々は神君の力にすがることしかできず、その上で作戦を考えねばなりません。
う。お前たちの不安は理解できる。だが、変な噂を真に受けないでくれ。
では、マキは
それは今後も俺が何とかする。属性に来てしまった以上、ここの平穏は俺が守るべきだ。カンナギは祭祀の用意をするだけでいい。神のお告げを得られなくとも人々を鎮めることはできる。
わかりました。
That man is a divine shaman. Dot begins searching inside you, but before you can wrap your head around what's happening, the water beside you suddenly starts to ripple. This is followed by a yell from Luke.
そこにいるのは誰だ？
He glares at you through the blades of grass. His gaze is sharp and he clearly doesn't recognize you. In an instant, Luke picks up a leaf and flicks it towards you. You barely manage to dodge it, but now you've completely exposed. He noticed me. Watching as he raises his hand to cast a spell, you realize you have nowhere to run. Desperate, you can only leap into the floating lake. You swim deeper and deeper amidst the warm current. However, your body grows heavier and heavier for some reason. You gradually drift out of consciousness and fall into darkness. Floating lake.
大丈夫か？頼むから起きてくれ。
The sound of water laps in your ears. In a daze, you hear someone calling your name, but you struggle to wake up due to your jumbled thoughts. You are lying in Luke's arms. When he sees you waking up, he breathes a relief sigh and gently pats your back.
やっと目を覚ましたか。どこか痛いところはないか？
Luke, what happened to me?
溺れたんだよ。俺がすぐに見つけたからいいものの、あのままだったら大変なことになってたぞ。
Drowning? Fragmented memories flash through your head. You can still feel that flying leaf nearly grazing your cheek, and for a moment you can't tell where you are. What was that all about?
やっぱり、どこか怪我したのか？
Luke is still embracing you as he brushes errant hairs from your forehead. You meet his worried gaze and subconsciously reach out to poke at his face. His lips move slightly. He hesitates for a moment before taking your hand in his.
俺の顔に何かついてるか？
No, I was spacing out. It really is, Luke. So, was that just a dream? Or was I hallucinating while I was drowning? Most likely worried about your condition, Luke lowers his head and moves closer to you. Rubbing your still aching temple, you finally come back to your senses and remember what happened before you fell into the water. I was practicing the mirror mirage spell, then, for some reason, I fell into the floating lake.
水鏡の術？教託に来て随分経つけど、そんな術は初めて聞いたな。
It's an ancient Miaolio clan spell that isn't commonly used. I came across it in an ancient text. It uses the water as a mirror to reflect the mortal realm, but it takes a lot of spirit power to cast. I've only just learned how to use it.
にしたって、水に落ちるほど意識を失うってことは、かなり危険な術なんじゃないか？
But I never noticed anything strange when I was practicing the spell before. Maybe I was tired from reading, so I wasn't being as careful. There are several boxes in the pavilion, and Luke glances at a stack of ancient texts and scrolls. He picks up one on top and flips through it.
一族の古書を全部調べてたのか。こないだの牧の一件、まだ気にしてるのか。
Even though the infernal sovereign is still away, his movements are restricted. He has been invading the mortal realm with his remaining infernal energy for the past 500 years. If infernal energy continues to build up in the mortal realm, the infernal sovereign will absorb all living beings to strengthen himself and break through the seal. Thinking about it, you nod your head.
大変なことが起きているのは確かだけど、自分の身の安全も考えろ。
I know, I'll be more careful from now on, but I think I really found a use for the Mirror Mirage spell.
思いついたこと。
Even though the chief sent several people to the mortal realm to investigate, they couldn't find anything. If we use the Mirror Mirage spell to observe the mortal realm, we can quickly find the source of the infernal's energy and subdue it. But it's ultimately just a temporary solution. Finished with your explanation, you take the ancient text from Luke and turn to the page you are most familiar with, one that you have read more times than any other. It records the story of the infernal sovereign. Although the information is scarce, it reveals the most important detail. The infernal sovereign can only be defeated by a deity. Luke stares at you in silence for a long time, as if he can see right through you. He takes the ancient text from you and tosses it back onto the table, breathing another soft sigh.
やっぱり、まだ神を探すつもりなんだな。
Of course, after all, it's impossible for humans to completely eradicate the infernal sovereign alone.
けど、神が地上に落ちてから、もう500年だぞ。誰も口にはしてないけど、もう。でも心配するな。神がいなかったとしても、属性はちゃんと、俺が守ってやるから。
Do you hear yourself? The next second, your hands are already cupping Luke's cheeks, pinching them into a smile. There is a trace of surprise in his eyes, but the worry he had earlier had already faded. Protecting the mortal realm isn't only your responsibility, even though I can't really help you right now. Now that I can use the Mirror Mirage spell, I can look for traces of the deity in the mortal realm. If we can find the deity, everything will work out. Then we can live a peaceful life. A breeze blows by, flipping the pages of the book. As the wind passes, the floating lid falls into a brief silence. Luke's cheeks feel somewhat hotter than before. As you release your hands, he shifts his gaze to look at the still lake.
多分だけど、お前以上に熱心に神を探してるやつなんていないだろうな。
I just don't believe that it's only a baseless rumor. As long as there's a tiny bit of hope, I won't give up. And I have my own slightly selfish reason for doing so too.
下心？
You pause and clear your throat mysteriously, as if trying to build suspense. I've never told anyone about this before, but the deity looked after me before. Even though it has already been 5 centuries, fondness still blooms from the bottom of your heart every time you recall those memories. I've already been a divine shaman for 900 years. I was extremely lucky during the first 400 years when the deity was still guiding the world.
幸運？
For example, the flowers next to my house would bloom particularly beautiful each spring, and there would always be a cool breeze surrounding me every summer. And sometimes it looked like it was going to rain, but it would only ever start where after I made it undercover.
何を言うかと思えば、そんなのただの偶然だろ。
He raises his head, looking outside as he begins to drizzle. The small raindrops blow into the pavilion with the wind, and you instinctively use a spell to block them from entering.
風を操って雨を防ぐなんてのは、教託の一族の得意技だ。わざわざ神に頼る必要もないだろう。
Look, you...
それに、本当に神の加護だったとしても、神からすれば一別程度のもんだ。ずっと覚えとくほどのことじゃない。
The Miao Luo clan has always believed in and respected the deity more than ordinary people, and since I'm the Miao Luo's clan's shaman, those lucky moments made me feel like the deity was acknowledging my faith. So, even if it was just a fleeting glimpse, I'm still grateful. If I can actually find him, I want to tell him how I feel.
そうか。
Lutz remains silent for quite a while. There is a deep look in his eyes before he turns and looks up to the boundless sky before with you. If the deity is still here, then he must be watching us right now, just like how we're watching the sky.
神は属性を守るものだからな。当然万物を見てるさ。
You look at Luke from the side. He is still staring at the sky, and you wonder what's on his mind. He often unintentionally reveals his worries, most likely due to the recent surge of infernal energy.
シン君、ミコ様。
The rain stops, and you hear shouting in the distance. Unable to comfort Luke right now, you can only tug on his sleeve to face the visitor with him. It is the clan messenger. He is running toward the pavilion as he calls out to you and Luke. What's going on? Why are you in such a hurry?
族長がお呼びです。今すぐ二人とも祭壇へ来るようにと。
わかった。すぐに行く。
Altar. Seeing as the ceremony of sacrifice will be held soon, the chief has been directing everyone to help out with the preparations recently. But a crowd is gathered around the altar when you and Luke arrive. What happened? Upon seeing you arrive, the crowd parts to reveal an unconscious young man in the center. His eyes are shut tight and his face is dark. Curled into a ball, he groans uncontrollably. Even though you can tell the other members of the clan have treated him, it hasn't done him much good.
魔気に侵されてるな。
Luke squats down next to the young man, places his fingers together, and points between the boy's eyebrows, slowly imbuing him with divine power. The young man's expression considerably softens, and the infernal energy slowly fades. Luke doesn't take his hand away until the boy's breath stabilizes.
よし。これで体内の魔気は全て払ったから、一晩休めば回復するはずだ。誰かすまないが、彼を家まで送ってやってくれ。
ありがとう、シン君。
The head of the clan waves his hand, and several people come to help bring the young man away. As the commotion outside the altar calms, the chief sighs.
ここ数日、属性の魔気を調べるために、わしの指示で一族の者を現地に送っていたんだが、あやつはその一人でな。こちらが魔気の濃度を見誤ったせいで、危うく命を落とすところだったのだ。
Have things really gotten this serious? You aren't exactly sure what's happening in the mortal realm since you have never left the floating lake. Even though Luke goes there frequently, he always tells you the good news and never the bad. However, the people of the Miao Luo clan are protected by the spirit power and aren't as easily injured by infernal energy compared to ordinary folk.
そうだ。もはや我々だけで魔気を抑えることはできぬ。 以前と同様、シン君に属性へ行って鎮圧してもらうほかない。
もちろん今日にでも出発します。
I need to think of another way. Seemingly sensing your worry, Luke puts his arm over your shoulder. He pats you thinly, bends down slightly, and whispers in your ear.
心配すんな。俺がそばにいるから。
As soon as he says this, a strong gust of wind suddenly rises above the altar, rushing toward you and Luke with a destructive force. Infernal energy erupts out of nowhere like thick ink, engulfing the entire altar. Infernal energy? How? Before you can even react, the infernal energy is already fast approaching. Without another thought, you stand in front of everyone and raise a barrier. May all be cleansed, evil be gone. White light pierces the air, and the infernal energy is held back about 10 meters away from where you are standing. You breathe a sigh of relief, but you feel an unexpected stagnating sensation in your heart. You can hardly withstand the fierce infernal energy. It is likely because you have exhausted too much spirit power. You hold your breath to stifle the stagnant feeling. Fortunately, the rest of the clan jumps into action. They guard the children and elderly as well as help you maintain the barrier.
ここで待ってろ。
With that, Luke heads straight for the center of the infernal energy. You inevitably reach out to stop him, but your fingers only brush the hem of his robes. Wait! Look! The black fog is so dense that you lose sight of Luke the moment he enters it.
ミコよ、心配はいらぬ。シン君は術を熟知しておるからの。それよりも今は一族を守ることが優先じゃ。
ええ、シン君とは昔同じ作戦に出たことがありますが、このような場面は幾度となくありましたし、彼はその度に無傷で戻ってこられました。
Does Luke have to do this every time he dispels infernal energy?
魔気は四方に拡散する特徴がある。よってその中心で根源を払うことこそが危険だが最も効果的な方法なんじゃ。
You do your best to calm down, but you can't help worrying after seeing Luke in danger. You look for any trace of Luke in the black fog, but you reluctantly realize something. No matter how hard you try, the safety of the mortal realm depends on Luke, and Luke alone. It shouldn't be like this. What can I do?
みんな見てくれ。
The infernal energy in front of you rapidly disappears, and the dense fog completely clears away. Luke has sealed the source. This is the first time you have seen him after he has dispelled infernal energy. Under his slightly disheveled hair, a trace of brutality still lingers in his eyes. Luke! You run to his side. Luke surprises the last bits of hostility, reaching out to wave away the dust floating in the air.
平気だって。この程度の魔気にやられるわけないだろ。
I'm glad you're okay. That was way too dangerous.
魔気が広がる前に止めたかっただけだ。心配させて悪かったな。
The crowd gathers around, all frantically discussing what happened just now.
どういうことでしょう。なぜ教卓にまで魔気が。
辺りの結界が緩み、侵入を許してしまったのかもな。
仮にそうだとしても、問題はそれだけでは済まないかと。霊力で満ちている教卓が魔気に侵食されたんです。属性の状況はもっとひどいことになっているかもしれません。
一刻も早く魔気を払う必要がある。が、出現している場所や規模の調査は終わっておらぬ。間に合うといいのじゃが。
I know what to do. Get me a basin full of water. Some members of the clan quickly bring you the water you ask for. You cast the mirror mirage spell. A watery mirror slowly rises up from the basin, revealing an image of the mortal wall. As expected, infernal energy is emerging from several sources and is spreading through the wall. The clan messenger quickly makes a note of all the places shown on the water mirror. The floating lake isn't the only target.
すぐに人を送る。シン君、そなたにも同行を頼みたい。
わかりました。
I'm coming too. Ah. The stagnating sensation in your heart suddenly transforms into a sharp stabbing pain. Unable to withstand it any longer, you collapse. Luke bends down to catch you, and you subconsciously bury your face in his neck, panting heavily as if this will somehow relieve the pain. A hand covers your pulse. Warm divine power flows into your body with his fingertips, and your pen listens somewhat.
体の内側を損傷してる。どうしてこんなことになったんだ？
I have used up too much spirit power trying to hold the infernal energy back. I should be fine after resting for a few days.
お前ほどのやつがマキを押し止めただけでこんなひどいことになるもんか。
Luke furrows his brow, checks your pulse again, and then shakes his head in confusion.
いずれにしてもこんなのは普通の傷じゃない。教託に戻って安静にするんだ。
Your injury is quite serious. Even if you force yourself to go along with them, you won't be able to help. After considering it, you agree with Luke. Alright.
属性に行くメンバーは俺が選出するから、お前は教託で待っててくれ。戻ったらいろいろ話そう。
Corridor. You intend on heading straight back to Floating Lake to wait for Luke, but you spot the chief ordering people to pack their bags on the way. The chief waves you over, and you follow him to a more private place to talk. Sir, are you going to the motor room too?
ああ。急を要する事態じゃからな。それよりも、そなたには伝えておくべきことがある。わしが留守の間、一族におけるあらゆる判断をそなたに任せる。
Understood. I'll take care of everything here. The chief nods and carefully explains several important clan affairs to you. Then the topic gradually shifts to Luke.
シン君の身の上について、そなたは何か知っておるか？
The chief suddenly brings up Luke's lineage, most likely due to the infernal energy that appeared earlier. 500 years ago, the deity fell. Members of your clan went out to search for traces of the deity and found Luke. They saw a fleeting glimpse of the deity's aura in Luke. After realizing he could dispel infernal energy, they brought him back to the floating lake. From then on, although everyone respected him as a divine lord, no one knew his true identity. With that, you shake your head. At first, I thought Luke might be the fallen deity as well, so I proposed to stay with him in the floating lake. But even after spending so much time together over the years, I've never once sensed the deity's aura in him. Perhaps that small trace of aura from back then just happened to accidentally stick to him. Maybe we were all wrong. The chief is unable to conceal the fatigue on his face. He looks off into the distance where Luke is busying himself.
そうか。まあいいだろう。神と夏彦につながりがあったところで、我々にはそれを調べる時間がない。属性はすでに崩壊しかけておるが、幸いにもシン君は信用できる人物だ。彼が手を貸してくれるなら我々の勝率もかなり上がるだろう。とはいえ、それでも難しいことだがな。
We can only do our best now that things have come down to this. Don't worry too much, Chief. Perhaps your reassurance is unconvincing because the chief turns to look at you with a kind smile.
三千世界は互いに干渉し合っていると言われているが、事実なのかもしれんな。我々が神を見つけられぬのは、我々の世界には落ちておらぬからじゃ。
What? The chief is hardly revealing a secret. It's a legend that everyone is aware of, but because you were so familiar with it, you never took it seriously. 3,000 mortal realms, all connected and dependent on each other. Together, they have birthed countless creatures. What if it isn't just a legend? My dream. You recall the dream you had when you were drowning. The scenery was identical to the floating lake, the unfamiliar look, and the other man he referred to as a shaman. They were also being threatened by infernal energy, preparing for the ceremony of sacrifice and searching for traces of the deity. If it wasn't a dream, and you accidentally traveled to another realm, would you also search for the deity in other worlds? Chief, I might have an idea. Maybe I'll have some good news when you get back from the mortal realm. You want to test your theory immediately, so you hurriedly say goodbye to the chief and head back to the floating lake. Floating lake. All the arrangements have been made. When you return to the floating lake, Luke is already there waiting for you.
まだ治ってないだろうに。どうして動き回ってるんだ？
I'm okay. It doesn't hurt anymore. Listen, look, I think I have an idea. After you tell Luke the whole story, he falls deep into thought. Fully focused on planning in your assignment, you don't notice his solemn expression. So, even though we can't find any traces of the deity here, I might be able to find it in other places. I'm still not sure what happened back then, but as long as I can recreate the same conditions, the truth will definitely reveal itself. If I really can travel to other realms, maybe our crisis can be averted.
ダメだ。
Before you can finish speaking, Luke sternly interrupts you. You are astonished, looking at him in disbelief. His expression is serious, as if there are countless things he wants to say. Luke, what's wrong?
この前見た風景を再現するってことは、水鏡の術を使うことも含まれるんだろう。
Of course, what's wrong with that?
属性のことが心配なのはわかる。けど、お前自身のことはどうでもいいのか？
Everything happened so quickly that you had no time to worry about your own health. Only when Luke asks this do you realize your heart is still in pain.
体の内側が傷ついてるんだ。しばらくは術を使わない方がいい。それに、水鏡の術は消耗が激しい。無理に使えば、お前の体が耐えられなくなる。
But a clue like this is too valuable to pass up on. Luke, no matter what happens, I won't give up. The silence spreads between you two like flowing water. You look into his eyes, saying an emotion that you don't understand.
全部俺に任せとけばいいんだ。お前が心配してることは、すべて俺が解決してきてやるから。
I know you're willing to shoulder everything, but Luke, that's exactly why I don't want you to.
どうしてだ？
You are left stunned, never expecting Luke to ask you that. He doesn't give you any time to think before he continues murmuring.
お前は巫女で、属性を守る務めがある。だから、俺にばかり任せたくないってことか。それとも、お前の心には。
His question trails off with the wind, leaving only silence. Deep down, what? You can't stop yourself from asking what he meant, but Luke just looks at you in silence. Finally, he reveals a bitter smile as he shakes his head.
なんでもない。そもそも俺にこんなことを言う権利なんてないしな。
Your heart is thrown into chaos. You don't know why he would ask that, and you don't understand why your emotions are this unsettled by it. You can't give an accurate response, so you only stare at him stubbornly. Luke shifts his gaze away for some time as if he has already made a concession.
答えが得られないってのは分かってた。けど、それでも聞かずにいられないんだ。それがお前の望みなら、俺に止めることはできない。約束するよ。お前のしたいことは必ず付き合ってやる。だから、俺が帰るまでは何もしないと約束してくれ。
Okay, I promise. You get the vague feeling that something is off with Luke. However, he returns to his usual self after hearing your promise. Whether it be gloom or worries, they vanish without a trace, hidden under his typical familiar smile.
そうだ。大事なことを言ってなかったな。お前に渡したいものがあるんだ。
Luke pulls a jade disc out of his robes and hands it to you. Taking it, you realize it has been polished to be crystal clear, meaning Luke put a lot of thought and effort into it. It's warm to the touch, and it's made of jade found at the bottom of the floating lake. You must have made it yourself. What made you suddenly want to give this to me?
この玉壁には、俺の心力を注いである。もしもの時俺がいなくても、お前を守れるようにな。
Just to protect me? Luke pauses momentarily, almost as if you'd read his mind.
とにかく、これが俺の代わりだ。受け取ってくれ。
The jade disc glows with radiance under the sunlight. You gently run your fingers on the complex pattern carved on it before carefully tying it around your waist. Thank you, Luke. I love it.
ならよかった。それじゃ、そろそろ行ってくる。ちゃんと待ってるんだぞ。
Okay, I'll be waiting. Luke gives you a profound look before turning around and leaving. He doesn't turn back. Floating lake. Luke has already been gone for half a month. You have been recuperating at the floating lake and have recovered for the most part. The messenger has brought mixed news from the mortal realm. The infernal energy has been growing, and Luke seems to have his hands tied against the overwhelming force. Time waits for no one. The clock is ticking, and you're wasting precious time by worrying. Hence, you throw yourself into ancient texts and finally read about a myth related to the 3,000 realms. The myth claims that water is the source of all life, and that the 3,000 realms also rely on water to function and continue the cycle of life. It's most likely referring to the floating lake. But you've lived in the floating lake for such a long time and never noticed anything abnormal here. If you had to pinpoint the one thing that had been different from the last time you cast a spell, it would be that you used the floating lake to cast the Mirror Mirage spell. Could that be why? I'll only know if I try. It's useless to mull over it any further, so you decide to give it another shot. Even though you promise to wait until Luke comes back, you can't beat your time any longer. You only need to succeed once. Walking to the edge of the floating lake, you take a deep breath and slowly concentrate all of your spirit power in your staff. You'd originally wanted to use all of your power to open a passage to other realms, but your spell backfires, disturbing the floating lake's own innate spirit power. Though you quickly terminate the spell, the spreading spirit power is moving towards you, and you can't stop it fast enough. The jade disc on your waist shines with a brilliant light just in the nick of time, forming a protective barrier around you. This aura. You sense the fleeting aura of the deity amidst the gentle divine power blanketing you.
知れ
Surprised, you whip around to see that Luke has appeared behind you at some point. He then shields you behind him and reaches out toward the jade disc. The ground shakes for a moment. You grip onto Luke's sleeve and he holds you closer in response. Luke has grown much thinner recently. His robes billow in the wind, making his thin frame all the more obvious. You stare at him from behind for a long time before you snap back to your senses. Luke has already withdrawn his hand and the jade disc slowly floats into his palm. The floating lake also returns to its usual moonlit beauty. Luke, when did you get back?
ついさっきだよ。まったく、せっかく戻ってきたってのに、誰かさんが約束を破ってるとこを見ちまうなんてな。冗談だよ。お前が諦めないことは最初から分かってたことだ。玉壁を残していってよかった。
I just wanted to find a solution as soon as possible. Right, did the spirit power hurt you?
ああ、平気だ。教託と霊力の相性はいいからな。あれくらいで傷つけ合うことはない。それに、見た目はかなり派手だったけど、実際は霊力が激しく波打ってただけだ。
Luke speaks in a relaxed manner, and you begin to look at him closely under the moonlight. After being away from him for half a month, you realize just how weary he looks. The fatigue is apparent in his eyes and brows. Recalling the news the messenger brought, you realize Luke is only this relaxed right now because he doesn't want you to worry. So, how have you been over the past 2 weeks?
安心しな。ちゃんとやってたから。見ての通り、日程がきつくて疲れが残ってる以外、特に問題はないぞ。あと、属性の方も当分は大丈夫だ。もちろん、マキがまた湧き出してくる可能性もないとは言えないけど、しばらくはその心配もない。
As Luke bends down and ties the jade disc back onto your waist, his breath caresses your cheek. You move to brush it away, but you just end rubbing your nose instead.
で、お前こそどうしてたんだ？
I'm great. My injury is practically healed, and I thought of a way to visit other mortal realms.
水鏡の術か？
Yeah, but I clearly felt something blocking me just now. I didn't get that feeling when I accidentally traveled to another realm last time. Luke crosses his arms deep in thought. He then suddenly attempts to disturb the floating lake with his divine power. Seeing the serious expression on his face, you don't see anything to stop him. You simply calm yourself down and wait for the outcome. To your surprise, the floating lake's spirit power remains undisturbed. The water surface remains still.
やっぱりな。
Look, how did you do that? He turns around and spreads his palm. An image of the floating lake appears in his hand, and the current in the water is outlined by his divine power.
教託の霊力は一定の法則に巡ってる。お前は多分その流れに乗って異界に行き着いたんだろうな。
And this image you created is that pattern, the direction the current is moving in?
そうだ。お前がここの霊力を乱した時になんとなく感じて、たった今確信した。
So, I just need to follow the pattern. Looks like traveling to other realms isn't so hard after all. Over the past couple of weeks, you have thought about what to do if you made it to another realm countless times. Now that everything is ready, you want to go right away. But Luke has been working hard for the last half month. It isn't a good time for him to go. Looking at his exhausted face, you can't make him go on another journey right now. Never mind, I can wait for a few more days.
全部顔に出てるぞ。俺のことは気にしなくていいから。行くなら今すぐにでも行こ
But you...
う。大丈夫だ。それに、先延ばしにしたところで、お前の心配事が増えるだけだろ。だったら、早いとこ決着をつけた方がいい。
Okay, then let's make it a quick trip. Actually, I've been putting together a plan. There's no way we could search 3,000 realms for the traces of the deity one by one. But the Mirror Mirage spell doesn't only open the door to other realms, it also gives me a glimpse of what they look like. I want to use the Mirror Mirage spell to locate the most stable realm, the realm most likely to have already eradicated the infernal energy. That way, even if we can't find the deity, we can learn how they countered the infernal energy.
なるほどな。
Luke raises his head slightly, looking off into the distant sky. The darkness of the night reflects in his eyes, morphing into a dense mass of sorrow. You suddenly feel a pinprick of unease until you hear Luke's relaxed voice once again.
もしこの先でいい結果が得られず、元いた世界に戻ってこられなかったとしても、お前は受け入れられるか？
Yes, no matter what happens.
なら、俺が水鏡の術を使ってやるよ。
Huh?
俺の心力を使えば、より多くの情報が得られるかもしれないだろ。
The spell doesn't require much energy, and Luke is more familiar with the pattern the spirit power in the floating lake follows. It will be safer for him to handle it. You nod and teach Luke some tips for using the Mirror Mirage spell. After trying it a few times, he masters it completely. I'll be here to protect you, but be careful. With that, Luke is already walking on the surface of the floating lake. His divine power is so unique that he doesn't even need a magic weapon as a conduit to cast a spell. He simply closes his eyes and raises his hand to master his strength. The floating lake begins to flow slowly, and when he opens his eyes next, the waves have already formed. The moonlight bathes him in a layer of cool light. The cool wind blows through his hair, but he seems unfazed. The reflection of the full moon transforms into an intricate fragmented shadow, and the whirlpool swallows look up in an instant. Look!
鏡に映りし眺望よ。今ここに、天地の真理を示せ。
You hear Luke's voice from the water. As he recites the spell, the water flows outward around him, and several water mirrors rise up behind him. However, a strange yet familiar feeling suddenly overcomes you, making it impossible for you to focus on the images in the mirrors. You can't help touching your chest to feel the beating of your heart. This is the same feeling you had when the deity was looking after you. You push aside this soft melancholy. Coming back to your senses, you focus on protecting Luke. He seemingly senses something and looks up at you with a burning gaze.
この水鏡には、3000世界の全てが順に映し出されてる。もしかしたら、手がかりが見つかるかもしれないから、ゆっくり探しな。
Understood. Water mirrors rise up one after another, endlessly repeating like a cycle of reincarnation. The images shown in them are all familiar to you but slightly different. Infernal energy is also invading other realms, just as you thought. However, their approach to resisting the energy is exactly the same as yours. Strange, why isn't there?
焦らなくていいから、ゆっくり一つずつ確認するんだ。
Searching through each and every one of the mirrors, you realize you can see Luke's figure flashing through each one, but their expressions are all extremely indifferent. Come to think of it, it seems like you exist in every realm, Luke. You were even in the realm I traveled to before.
3000世界はそれぞれとつながってるから、よく似た人物が存在してても不思議じゃない。ほら、あっちの水鏡を見てみ。族長によく似た人が立ってるだろう。
Following Luke's instructions, you look at the mirror. Sure enough, it's just as he said. But it's really weird. Why haven't I seen anyone who looks like me in all of these realms?
お前は特別だからだろう。
Special? Luke's tone is the same as always. You thought you misheard him amidst the loud noise of the water, and you repeat it without thinking. But he takes your mumbling as a question and not seriously.
少なくとも俺にとってはな。
Why are you saying that all of a sudden? You decide not to pursue it further, shifting your gaze from Luke's smiling eyes. Instead, you continue searching through the water mirrors. After around a half an hour, the image you are looking for finally appears in a new water mirror. This realm is tranquil and the people live in peace. It's as if they have never been disturbed by infernal energy. I found it. Look, over there. Luke's expression turns serious, and he looks into the water mirror you are pointing towards.
間違いない。そこだ。
In an instant, the rest of the water mirrors shattered into droplets, pouring down like heavy rain. The image in the one remaining water also disappears, leaving only white light.
行くぞ。
Luke raises his hand slightly and opens his palm in an inviting manner. As long as you're holding this hand, you won't be afraid no matter how uncertain the future is. You no longer hesitate, throwing yourself into Luke's arms the next second. He pulls you into the water mirror. The white light is so harsh that you are forced to close your eyes, leaving everything to Luke.
おやきだよー、出来たてのおやきだよー。
着いたぞ。
Boisterous voices fill your ears. You open your eyes to find that you are on a busy street. For some reason, the jade dust on your waist has been growing hotter since you arrived in this realm. However, you are soon distracted by all the noise in front of you, so you ignore it for the time being. Is this a street in this realm? It's so busy.
初めて教託以外の場所に来たんだったな。なら、まずはこの辺を歩いてみて、そのついでに情報を探るか。
Okay, but before that, as you say this, you brush away Luke's hair and gently give the area between his brow a light tap. This way, ordinary people won't remember what you really look like. After all, there's someone else in this realm who looks like you. We should play it safe.
ああ、変装術か。さすが気が利くな。
Well, why don't we go try some of those first? You point to the steam pawn shop on the side of the street. Even though the street is crowded, the owner's loud voice cuts right through the noise.
おやじさん、2つお願いします。
あいよ、2つだね。ちょいとお待ちや。
As the boss responds, Luke pulls you over to sit in the corner. The fragrance of hot noodles wafts around you. You look around the street as your nose picks up on the scent. You spot several paper parasols with unique patterns hanging in a nearby shop. There are also many rare antiquities displayed in a shop further up ahead. You are completely overwhelmed by everything in front of you, and Luke gently prods your elbows.
何を見てるんだ？
I remember you bringing me so many new and interesting things every time you came back from the mortal realm. Did you bring all of those things from a bustling place like this?
ああ、巫女は属性と神をつなぐ存在で、教託を離れられないからな。文句は言ってないけど、属性に興味があるってことは分かってた。だから、少しでも気晴らしになればって。
I guess you don't know about this, but I secretly look forward to seeing what you'll bring back every time. I know I like everything you choose, but I'm always surprised to see what you bring. Luke smiles and rests his head in his hand as he looks at you. He then starts talking about the interesting experiences he's had in the past.
俺の方も、いつもこの場にお前がいたらって、そんなことばかり考えてた。
Oh, do tell.
賑やかな都会と静かな田舎、どっちのが好きなんだろうとか勝手に考えたり、連綿と続く山並みとか流れの強い大河とか、そういうのを見るたびにお前がどんな顔をするのか考えてた。属性に行けばだいたい半月くらいは戻らないだろ。けどそんなことをのんきに考えてると、帰る日まであっという間に過ぎ去って、お前にまた会えるようになるんだ。
I count down the days until you come back too. You whisper this softly, moving closer to him. You nudge the arm he has resting on the table. Hey, look, after everything is settled, when people can live happily even without the oracles at it. Let's go to the mortal realm together and visit all the places you mentioned. Luke's expression shifts slightly. After a short silence, he smiles and nods.
あ、そうしよ
Mortal Wall.
お二人さん、待たせたね。はい、おやきだよ。
Thank you. After serving you and Luke your steamed buns, the boss doesn't leave. Instead, he stands off to the side, carefully looking you two over.
二人はこの辺の人じゃなさそうだけど、寄進祭のために遠くからやってきたのかい？
Prayer Festival? What's that?
おや、違ったか。結構有名なお祭りなんだけどな。
We're from a small village on the border. I guess we're pretty ill-informed. Can you tell us about it?
う。その名の通り、神を祀る祭りだよ。別に珍しいもんでもないって。
Luke mutters quietly under his breath, but the owner manages to catch it all the same. Unconvinced, the owner begins arguing with Luke.
お客さん、それは違うよ。俺たちがこうして平和に暮らせてるのは、すべてシンくんのおかげなんだから。
Divine Lord? Sounds like there really is a Luke in this realm too.
そうですか。
You glance over at Luke. His expression has been hard to read ever since the owner brought up this topic. Noticing your eyes on him, Luke takes a drink of water from his cup to cover up the emotions in his eyes. It seems like the owner has quite a bit of respect for the Divine Lord, because he simply can't wait to tell you everything he did.
13年前にマキによる災害があったのを覚えているかい？あの時にシンくんは命を賭してマキを払い、人々を守ってくれたんだ。以来、感謝と追悼の意を込めて、人々はシンくんを称える活動を始めた。それが今でいう寄進祭になったってわけだ。
What? You suddenly jump out of your seat. Your wooden chair makes a dull thud as it hits the ground, and all the patrons around you turn in your direction. The owner stops his explanation and stares at you with a concerned expression.
大丈夫かい、お嬢さん。
Luke holds onto your wrist. You look down at him to find that he actually looks relieved, as if he expected this to happen. You sit down at Luke's urging, trying to your best to calm down. You then force yourself to smile at the owner. I'm okay. That just came as a little of a shock. Was the Divine Lord you mentioned from the floating lake? Do you know his name?
それはわからないね。俺みたいな凡人がシンくんの名前をなんてとてもとても。けど、あの方が教託から来たのは確かだったと思うよ。それまではそんな場所、ただの伝説だと思っていたんだけどね。
The owner casually narrates the past, but these few sentences strike you like lightning. Does that mean the Divine Lord he mentioned traded his life for peace and tranquility in this realm? The Divine Lord must sacrifice himself to save the world. That means, Luke.
面白い話でした。すみません、天使さん。お仕事の邪魔をしてしまって。
いいんだよ。何かあったらまた呼んでおくれ。
The owner turns to leave, and you look at Luke in disbelief. In an instant, the past comes flooding back.
でも心配するな。神がいなかったとしても、属性はちゃんと俺が守ってやるから。全部俺に任せとけばいいんだ。お前が心配してることは、すべて俺が解決してきてやるから。
I know you're willing to shoulder everything, but Luke, that's exactly why I don't want you to.
どうしてだ？もしこの先でいい結果が得られず、元いた世界に戻ってこられなかったとしても、お前は受け入れられるか？
Luke telling you multiple times that he would handle everything wasn't just his way of comforting you. It was a prophecy of what was to come. And it wasn't only him. When you traveled to the other realm, the Divine Lord said that he would take care of it too. Luke, what's going on? Luke doesn't answer you right away. He taps his fingertips on the table a few times. A barrier rises up to surround you two. No one would notice this conversation taking place.
ここへ来る前から、お前には全てを知られる覚悟をしてた。けど、どこかで隠し通せると思ってる自分もいた。全ては、お前が聞いた通りで、これが俺の宿命なんだ。
Wait, look, you know there's only one person in all 3,000 realms who could see something like that. Only the deity can defeat the infernal sovereign, and that is precisely why he fell to the mortal realm. If Luke sees this is his fate, then that means you really are connected to the deity, aren't you?
ああ。俺は、神の意識の一部だ。
His divine consciousness?
あの言い伝えは作り物なんかじゃなく、神は本当に地上に落ちたんだ。でも、神は落ちている最中に意識が砕け、三千世界へと散った。それらの意志が持つ宿命は、薪を払い、魔尊を消し去ること。三千世界のすべてから薪が払われたとき、魔尊は消滅するんだ。
No wonder you exist in every mortal realm, but the entire meaning of your existence is just to die. You want Luke to refute this, but he simply lowers his gaze and sighs. When he looks up at you again, his expression is firm and determined.
世界を救いたいのであれば、方法はこれしかない。
Your surroundings are still bustling with the comings and goings of people. If Luke trades his life to defeat the infernal sovereign, could your world be just as peaceful as this one? What about you? What will happen to you after the infernal energy is dispelled?
宿命とは言ったが、生き残る見込みがないわけじゃない。
What? Luke points up to the sky where there is nothing but floating clouds. You don't understand what he means and you look at him in confusion.
早急の上には虚境という神の生まれる場所がある。属性で湧き出た霊力に触れることで、たとえその身が滅びても虚境に帰るくらいの力は残るはずだ。そうすることでいつの日かまた神として生まれ変わることができる。これが最高の結末だ。
As if in response to this past ending, Luke's tone is calm and there is a reassuring smile in his eyes. One day, after 1,000 years, after 10,000, don't even have any idea at all? Deities are immortal, but the lifespan of a mortal goes by in the blink of an eye. The Miaoluo clan may be blessed by the deity, but we aren't immortal. So how will I see you again? And will you really be the new deity? Luke is stunned. It seems like he wasn't expecting you to react this way. He thinks for a moment before shaking his head slightly.
それが俺かどうかは重要じゃない。お前はこの先も神の手がかりを探すことになる。なら、神がいつか復活するかもしれないって事実がお前の救いになるかもしれないだろう。
That's not how it is. You hastily interrupt him, lean closer and stress each word as you speak. I already told you that I've been searching for traces of the deity because I'm grateful to him. That won't change regardless of whether I find him or not. But you're the one who has been with me for the last 500 years, Luke. You are much more important to me than any deity. You feel sympathy for Luke since he has the weight of the world on his shoulders, but you refuse to accept him sacrificing his life as a fragment of divine consciousness. As chaotic thoughts violently surge in your head, you suddenly realize your true feelings. Because you're so familiar with him, so used to the days you spent together, you never quite realize your deeper feelings for Luke. I won't give up. I don't believe that in 3,000 realms, all the fragments of divine consciousness only have this one path. I'll definitely find another way, even if it means traveling to different realms one by one, no matter the cost. I'll figure out how to save the world and save you.
ダメだ。もう他の世界には行くな。
Before he can finish speaking, Luke suddenly cries out in pain. Luke! Floating lake. You help Luke back to the floating lake. As soon as you step through the water mirror, Luke collapses and falls unconscious. Even though you use the Miaoluo technique to relieve Luke's pain, he still hasn't awoken. Is it because he dispelled the infernal energy before? His injury doesn't seem normal. What's this? You lift Luke's collar slightly, spotting a pale gold line on the side of his neck. You hesitate for a moment before pulling his clothes open, only to realize that the line extends from his neck to the front of his chest. Ancient medical texts say that the energy of remarkable powerful individuals is merged with their meridians. So when they are weak, their physical reactions will be more obvious than those of normal people. Their exhaustion may even reflect on their skin. How did this happen to you? The only response you receive is the usual silence of the floating lake. Luke's head rests on your lap. You gently caress the line on his chest, unable to stop yourself from embracing him tightly. Luke, are you okay? Your blank face is reflected in his eyes. Luke takes a deep breath to calm his panting.
平気だって本当だ。このところは 心力の消耗が激しかったからな。数日休めば良くなるはずだ。それより、さっきは急にめまいがして、驚かせちまってごめんな。
Luke forces a smile, putting his hand over yours as it rests on his chest. Both of your hands lay above his heart, intertwined like vines. You are so close to him, but you still have no idea what he intends to do. A teardrop falls, running down his face and disappearing in the crook of his neck.
おい、泣くなよ。
Stop moving! You hold him in place as he tries to get up. He is no match for you right now, so he gives up and reaches out to wipe your tears from the corners of your eyes instead. Look, you might have wanted to hide the real reason why are you so seriously injured from me. But whatever the case may be, I need to know. So I'm going to do this, even if you don't want me to.
やるって何を？
Body and shadow as one, spirit and soul conjoined. You lower your head, casting the spell before Luke can stop you. Your staff suddenly shakes beside you, and two seals reveal themselves on your foreheads. This is a secret Myeonlo clan spell that connects two souls together. With the spell is in effect, his pain is your pain, and his past is also your past.
よせ！
As Luke raises his hand, his divine power sparks, only to dissipate into thin air. You subdue him with your spirit power, and his hand slowly falls. Your spell would never have succeeded if Luke wasn't so weak right now.
どうしてここまで？
He asks this in a low, somewhat hoarse voice. You suddenly recall that Luke asked you a similar question before. You never answered his question as he never completed it, the latter half drifting away with the wind. Because you are in my heart, whether it's then or now, from the beginning to the end, that will always be my only answer. So I don't want you to die, and I don't want to be separated from you. Luke's lips move slightly, but he doesn't say anything. After some time, he reveals a bitter smile.
それは確かに俺が欲しかった答えだ。けどそうじゃなかったらよかったのにとも思ってる。
You feel a stabbing pain in your heart. Gritting your teeth, you stop yourself from crying out, but you break out in a cold sweat. The secret spell is in effect, and now you feel Luke's pain. This sensation is familiar. You were hurt in the same way before, but Luke's injury is several times more serious than yours. You begin to feel dizzy, and several scenes you've never seen before appear before your eyes. Are these Luke's memories? Black fog fades away, revealing massive cracks in the ground that prove how intense the previous battle was. Several figures appear in the snow, including Luke.
これでマキは全て払ったか？
油断できぬ状況だったとはいえ、まさか半月間も休むことなく続けるとはな。だが3ヶ月で済ますところを半月足らずで終わらせる必要はあったのか？このように心力を消耗していては体の方が持たぬ。今夜は一晩休み、明日以降に戻るといい。
いや、休みはしません。教託の方も心配なので一刻も早く戻ります。
だが。
The chief attempts to persuade him a few more times, but Luke shakes his head. He then brushes the snow off his shoulders, turns around and starts on his journey home. After a few steps, his figure is no longer visible. Luke was traveling day and night. Floating lake. White light engulfs your vision, and you are outside the floating lake in the blink of an eye. Is this the day Luke left for the motor realm? You remember Luke decisively treading around that day without looking back. However, outside your line of sight, Luke gazes in the direction you are standing for a long time. He ponders for a while, and now these thoughts are transmitted into your mind.
あいつやっぱり他の世界の存在に気づいてる。でもどうしてあそこまで確信を持てるんだ。あいつが負った傷、あれは無意識のうちに異界へ行った証拠だ。本人はまだ気づいてないが、あんな危険なことをもうやめさせないと。
So that's what happened. You weren't injured because you were resisting the infernal energy. It was actually because you traveled to another realm. To prevent you from getting hurt again, you suddenly realized why the Jade Disc had been hot back then. Luke had made all the preparations before you two left. Altar. Countless thoughts flood your mind as you look back on these dreamlike memories. But before you can think any further about it, the scene changes again. You are now at the altar. It looks like the previous ceremony of sacrifice. 10 years ago, you stood on the altar waiting for the oracle's edict that would never come. And Luke is looking at the altar with a gentle smile. In your mind, as a divine lord, Luke was either high-spirited or appropriately strict, and he rarely showed such tenderness. Were you always looking at me like that when I wasn't paying attention? Everyone is focused on the altar. When no one is watching him, Luke moves his lips, speaking in a voice that only he can hear.
お前が神を追い続けるって言うなら、それが叶うまでそばにいてやるよ。
Footsteps can be heard as embers float through the forest. The clan members suddenly came to a halt.
おい、そこにいるのは誰だ。
Several people surround Luke as he leans against a tree. When he hears this, he slowly raises his head. This is how Luke appeared when he first came to the motor realm. He didn't look at any of the people around him, instead gazing into the distance between their figures. His expression was cold and emotionless. You are astonished. This expression is the same as the look you saw in the other realm and in the water mirrors.
教託の一族か。どうしてお前たちがここにいるんだ。
何者だ。なぜ我々の正体を知っている。
Luke sees nothing, slowly stands up and suddenly thrusts his hand forward. Several of the clan members are shocked and hastily get in a defensive stance. But it is ultimately just a gust of wind. All the people look at each other and turn back to find a trace of lingering infernal energy behind them.
今、マキオ。まさか、あなたは属性に落ちた神。
それ以上は言うな。
Luke wasn't like this when I first met him. What happened? As soon as this thought enters your mind, the scene wraps and moves away from you. A dazzling light surrounds you, and you can't help reaching up to cover your eyes. The floating lake. Am I back? You look around and spot a familiar figure in the fog nearby. Even though you can tell it is Luke's silhouette, you are unable to clearly make out his face. Luke? You try calling out, however, the person doesn't move and the fog grows thicker. You take a few steps toward the person. Bizarrely, although you aren't that far away, you can't get closer no matter how hard you try.
ここが一番奥だ。これ以上進む必要はない。
That voice! is a voice you'll never forget, a voice that whispered in your ear several times when you listened to the oracle's edict. Are you the deity?
いや、神の意識の奥底に位置するものだ。本体のようなものと言えば伝わるだろう。
I don't understand.
神の意識の一部に感情はない。よって属性を守るのは本体の意志に基づく行為だが、そこに不確定要素が生まれた。
A variable? Is it Luke? Even though you know it's useless, you can't help taking a few steps forward. The figure in the fog doesn't answer you. The fog grows even thicker and you can hardly see him at all. Since there's a variable, there must be a corresponding way to handle this. I hope you can remember how you looked after me in the past and tell me what to do.
万物は来たるべき場所から行くべき場所へと因果に基づいて巡り続ける。
The figure gradually fades away, seemingly disappearing between heaven and earth. You reach out, only catching a whiff of fog. One last whisper sounds from the void.
神の眼差しは過去ではない。本物のようであり、偽物のようでもある。そなたが見ている霧のようなものだ。さあ、行くがいい。
Wait, what do you mean? Floating lake. The image disappears and you are pulled out of the memories in a daze. The night scenery of the floating lake remains the same, but you are unsure when day will come. I'm back. The pain has lessened and Luke's condition has stabilized considerably. Even though the line on his chest hasn't disappeared, he is alright for the time being. You lift the secret spell. He reaches out, wrapping his hand around your wrist.
どうして俺の痛みを引き受けたりしたんだ。
Then why did you have to shoulder the adverse effects for me? There doesn't need to be such a clear distinction between us. You help Luke sit up and smooth out his clothes. He remains silent, allowing you to do what you want. Everything that happened just now is still vivid in your mind. You take a deep breath and push down your chaotic thoughts. If it wasn't for the coincidental circumstances over the past few days, I never would have known. Luke, why didn't you tell me?
もし言ってたらお前は俺を止めただろう。それに俺だってお前を心配させたくない。
That's not what I'm asking about. You softly interrupts Luke. I've already seen everything you've done with my own eyes. Naturally, I also understand how you feel. I want to know why you've never told me how you felt about me for the past 500 years. Luke stops himself from responding. The more he tries to avoid it, the more anxious you feel. You grip your staff tightly, about to use the same spell to catch a glimpse of his emotions, but Luke suddenly holds your hand.
とても話せないと思ったからだ。
What? In your astonishment, Luke has already dispelled the spirit power you were gathering in your staff. He caresses the back of your hand, not letting you go. After some time, he sighs in resignation.
認めたくなかったんだ。お前にこういう気持ちを抱いてるってことを異世界の俺を見たなら知ってるだろう。あのくらい無情にならなきゃ死とは向き合えない。なのにお前と会って一緒に過ごしてるうちに属性やお前に愛着が生まれちまった。
Isn't that a good thing?
もしこの感情が育ちきったら取り返しのつかないことになるんじゃないかって。それにお前の手を離して一人死にに行く、そんな現実をどうやって自分に説明したらいいんだ。
If you don't want to let go, then don't. You hold Luke's hand, he subconsciously moves to pull away, but you have already intertwined your fingers with his.
お前
Even if that inevitable day comes, I won't have any regrets. You hold onto him tightly, as if you'll only let go if he agrees. Luke hesitates for a long time, countless complex emotions flashing through his eyes. However, he finally looks at you with a steady gaze, and he grips your hand in return.
俺が同意しなくてもお前は絶対にその選択を貫くんだろうな。でどうせ最後には俺も言う通りにしてて叶わないな、ほんと。
Then it's settled, don't regret it.
はあ、しっかり掴んどくよ。
There is a faint morning light in the distance as dawn approaches. You and Luke stayed up all night. When you finally get a minute to rest, you can't hold out any longer, rubbing your eyes sleepily.
疲れただろ。少し休んだ方がいい。
Okay. You lean on Luke's shoulder, craving this moment of tranquility. You then casually twirl a lock of Luke's hair between your fingers. Everything that has happened lingers in your mind, and you let out a soft sigh.
何を考えてるんだ。
You come back to your senses and tells Luke everything you saw in his divine consciousness, including the directions you didn't understand. Luke thinks for a long time before slowly speaking.
万物は因果に基づいて巡り続ける。多分これはある場所のことを言ってるんだろうな。始まりであり終わりであり来た場所であり行く場所でもある。
Luke's beginning and source. The illusory realm.
そうだ。神は虚境で生まれ、新緑もそこから湧き出てる。神が残した心が俺たちを虚境へ導いてるなら、もしかしたらそこで別の方法が見つかるかもしれない。だが
Luke frowns slightly, clearly uncertain. He seems to have some concerns.
虚境はこの世界ほど安全じゃない。終わりの地と呼ばれているのには理由があって、あそこには魔尊が封じられてるんだ。今はまだ封印が機能してるけど、不測の事態が起きる可能性はある。
Are you worried we won't be able to come back?
いや、最悪の場合でも戻っては来られるはずだ。何も得られず最後の一撃を放つことにはなるだろうけどな。
One final blow.
なあ、今の俺に残された最後の力であり、魔尊ごと何一つ残さず消し去る力だ。
Luke takes your hand and places it over his heart when his scar is.
だから虚境に行くか属性にとどまるか、その決断はお前に委ねようと思う。もちろんどちらを選んだとしても 俺はそれを信じるつもりだ。
You can feel Luke's warmth and heartbeat through his clothes. The figure in the fog mentioned a variable that changed Luke, but if you only focus on the present, there will never be a turning point. After some thought, you make up your mind. We're already at the end of the road. Wouldn't it be a shame if we didn't take a gamble now? In the worst case, we'll simply be reduced to ashes, but at least I'll always be with you.
なあ。いい選択だ。
After you both decide to go to the illusory realm, Luke rests for a few days. After recovering somewhat, he sends out some of the clan members. If something goes wrong while you two are gone, they will be able to handle it. After making all the arrangements, you and Luke are ready to leave. Floating Lake. Standing on the edge of the floating lake, Luke looks at the waterfall hidden in the fog in the distance. It is the source of the flowing water. Luke uses his palm as a blade, splitting the water in two. A path appears before you, leading straight to the waterfall. As you and Luke continue forward, the path behind you is submerged by water. The way back disappears, only leaving the path forward. When you are about to reach the waterfall, you realize that the water is actually flowing upside down, extending like a staircase up to the heavens. Luke steps onto it, turning around and reaching his hand out to you.
この先は何が起こるかわからない。俺の手を離すなよ。
Okay, I won't let it go. The higher you climb, the dimmer your surroundings grow, until you are eventually immersed in pitch black darkness. Unable to use your magic, you rely on one another to feel your way forward. You don't know how long you have been walking before a faint light finally appears in front of you. You come upon dense, shadowy trees and a miasma that blocks your vision. As soon as you step into the illusory realm, your jet dish shines with a bright light that blankets you. A sinister wind blows and you cause a barrier to block it. When you make it to calmer surroundings, you realize that Luke is no longer at your side. When did we get separated? I didn't even notice. I need to find my way back to Luke. Luke's divine power is stored in the Jet Disc, which means he must be able to sense it. You close your eyes and hold your breath, secretly allowing the divine power to spread out amidst your surroundings. You instantly sense a familiar feelings in the bottom of your heart. Opening your eyes, you realize you are completely alone. How? You only sense that feeling when the deity looked after you. Why did it suddenly appear again after 500 years? No. It hasn't been 500 years. You also felt it that day Luke cast the mirror mirage spell. The past is like a long dark night. However, a light flashes before your eyes like a new dawn, accompanied by a hand that grips tightly onto yours.
見つけた。神の眼差しは加護ではない。本物のようであり、偽物のようでもある。そなたが見ている霧のようなものだ。さあ、行くがいい。
As the world begins to spin, the words you heard within the divine consciousness echo in your ears again. So that's what it means. You finally understand. You believe the deity was watching over you with his divine gaze. You've actually ignored the gaze itself. The deity watches over everything, but his gaze lingered on you, and that fleeting gaze directly at you transformed into a wisp of divine consciousness, staying by your side. It has always been Luke. It has only ever been Luke. Illusory Ram.
As Luke pulls you out of your illusion, the shadowy trees and miasma have already vanished. This place is no different from the floating lake. I'm the one who found you. I finally found you. You are completely unconcerned with everything else as you embrace Luke. Surprised, he strokes your back, somewhat panicked.
向こうで何を見たんだ。この一瞬で何が。
No, I just...
危ない。
Before you can finish your sentence, Luke shields you with his body. In an instant, the earth begins to split apart. The jet disc breaks free of its restraints. It then rises up in front of you and Luke, expanding to create a massive barrier.
まずいな。俺たちがここに来たことをマソンに知られたら何が起きるかわからない。封印が解けたわけじゃないが、教託の果てにあたるここは三千世界ともつながってる。やっぱ根源たるマソンを倒さないと、属性や三千世界を守るのは無理そうだな。
With just us two, I don't think we stand much of a chance.
ああ、けど、やるしかないんだ。
You barely manage to steady yourself when the ground shakes again. Luke stands in front of you, his stance clear, incredibly determined. You fix your gaze on him, and for a moment, all of your fears disappear. You can't help but step forward and stand shoulder to shoulder with him. Seeing this, anxiety flashes across Luke's face. You interrupt him before he can see anything. If these are our last moments, Luke, I'm willing to live and die with you. Everything follows the endless cycle of cause and effect. All the variables of this moment were determined the second you look at me back then. The variable the deity's core mentioned wasn't just Luke, it's also you. Between you two, it is no longer clear who is the cause and who is the effect. But if everything is going to end, you must be there too. Luke looks at you silently before finally revealing a relieved smile.
よし、それじゃあ、最後まで一緒に行くとするか。
As the infernal energy grows stronger, Luke imbues the jet disc with his divine power. The barrier grows sturdier, blocking out the surrounding noise. Luke, if we survive this, are you willing to stay by my side forever? Not as a piece of divine consciousness, not as the deity's kiss, just as Luke.
それは、俺が先に言おうとしてたのに。もちろんいいに決まってるだろう。俺たちに未来があるなら、お前とは平凡な恋人になりたい。過去なんて関係なく、ただその時を楽しめるような。
In that case, we can't just make empty promises. Luke chuckles as he reaches out to cover the jade disc. It shines with a warm, soft light, just like the moonlight on a dark night.
この玉壁は俺の存在の証明だ。どれだけ時が経とうとこの気持ちが変わることはない。で、ここに手形を押せばもう口約束ですらなくなり、仮に海が枯れようとその誓いが覆ることはなくなる。
May we be like this for all eternity. As you say this, the phrase "our unwavering hearts" is engraved on the jade disc. Luke uses his strength, causing his handprint to appear on the jade disc once again. You reach out with your right hand, covering the jade. The two handprints overlap, slowly fading into the jade disc. Your intertwining fates becoming each other's variables, everything has finally led to this point. The light shining from the jade disk grows even more dazzling, and the infernal energy is knocked back a considerable distance away. But before you even breathe a sigh of relief, the infernal energy surges and condenses again, forming a massive humanoid figure that blocks your way forward. In an instant, the sky goes dark.
マソンだ。
500年ぶりだというのに出迎えが本体ではないとは
お前の相手をする程度ならこれで十分だ。
な。かつての神ならばまだ世とも戦えただろうが、ここまで落ちぶれた貴様が何を言うか。
As soon as he finishes speaking, the infernal energy, now 100 times more ferocious, transforms into a sharp spear and hurtles toward you and Luke. Luke casts a spell to strengthen the barrier. You tightly grip your staff, but your spirit power vanishes into thin air as soon as you cast a spell. How?
心力しか通じないんだ。今はとにかく自分を守ることだけ考えろ。
Luke resists the infernal energy with all of his power, but cracks begin to appear in the barrier in front of you two.
無駄なあがきだ。
The spear is still a threat, and the infernal energy has already formed a heavy shield above your heads, bearing down on both of you. At this crucial moment, a faint light seemingly called upon by Luke floats around, gathers at his brow, and merges into him. Then, the barrier explodes in a burst of light, dispersing the surrounding infernal energy. What is this?
すでに滅んだ神の意志だ。
少しは楽しめたが、所詮は我あがきといったところか。
With a wave of the infernal sovereign's hand, the infernal energy gathers into numerous sharp blades that surround you and Luke. The energy exuding from the swords alone causes you both to take a step backward. Though Luke is doing his best not to reveal his weakness in front of the infernal sovereign, he is gradually losing his strength after holding out for so long. We can't let this drag out any longer. Luke is no match for the infernal sovereign right now. You can't let him take any unnecessary risks. You look at the floating lake. If the remaining aura of the divine consciousness could merge with Luke, then it might prove useful. If you can lead all of the divine consciousness power together in Luke, then maybe you might have a shred of hope. You close your eyes, point your staff at the floating lake, and voice your prayer to the fallen deity. Blessed by the heavens, I open my ears to the deity.
お前、何をする気だ
I want to return the fragments of the divine consciousness to their rightful place. They can help you defeat the infernal sovereign once and for all.
やめろ人間の体で心力なんて使ったら、成否にかかわらずお前が
Why can't I do this? Humans have listened to the oracle's edict for thousands of years, never once crossing the line. This time, the deity should listen to mankind's wish. As you complete the barrier, ripples suddenly appear in the floating lake. After turning into light, it bursts into your staff. Your staff shakes violently. You grit your teeth, refusing to let go, but the divine power is blinding. You shake your head in an attempt to calm down. Now! The divine power gathered in your staff transfers to Luke. He looks at you as if he is seeing all of your memories over the years in this one moment. A gentle force engulfs you as Luke holds your hand tightly. We've come this far, there's no turning back.
言っただろう。最後まで一緒だって。
I The sharp blade pierces you both, but you feel no fear whatsoever with Luke by your side. He no longer blindly resists the infernal energy, heading straight up for the infernal sovereign instead. As the two sides collide, the surging power rushes into you, and you lose consciousness amidst the brilliant golden light. There seems to be a figure in the middle of the fog. You look around your familiar surroundings before walking toward the person.
驚いていないようだな。
I am a mortal who call upon a deity, so no, I'm not surprised to see you.
結局解決に至ったのはそなたたちだけだったか。おかげで魔尊の存在は消え、三千世界からも脅威は去った。
With the awareness that you and Luke successfully shift the tides, you realize how long and hard this journey has been. The deity's core stands in the fog, almost as if he is waiting for you to catch your breath. There's one thing I don't understand. Even though I gathered all the fragments of divine consciousness, it still wasn't as powerful as the deity in his prime. How was Luke still able to defeat the infernal sovereign? The figure in the fog chuckles, seemingly shaking his head.
神に全盛期などない。まず三千世界を守るのは義務であり、私はこれを使命としてきた。だが何をもって守ることになるのかわからず、責任だけが重くのしかかり、一日として精神が安らぐ時はなかった。あやつはそれが何か自分なりの答えを見つけたのだろう。だからこそあれほどの心力を扱うことができた。そして私も安らげる時を終えた。
What about Luke? The figure quickly dissipates along with the fog. You run toward him, but only his voice remains.
神の一部はもはや存在しない。あやつは人としてこの世に残る。それが彼の意志であり願いだ。そなたと話すのもこれが最後だろう。さあ、もう行きなさい。
Bedroom.
目が覚めたか。
As sunlight pours in from the window, you feel as if your body is abnormally heavy. Luke lifts the blanket over you slightly and reaches out to check your pulse.
だいぶ良くなったな。あれから3日も眠り続けて、ようやく目覚めたんだ。
Luke helps you sit up and you slowly let out a relief sigh.
族長たちもお前の様子を見に来てたぞ。目が覚めたらまた来るってさ。そうだ、族生の方も今はすっかり平和を取り戻したらしい。俺たちのおかげで魔尊の影響が最小限で済んだんだと。
You quietly listen as Luke explains. He hurriedly tells you about everything that has happened in the past 3 days. You smile and stroke his hand. You've told me so much about everyone else. What about you?
こっちも問題なしだ。まあ、もう神の一部でも何でもなくなって、ただの夏彦になっちまったけどな。前に誓ったことについては、これから一緒にゆっくり実現させていこう。
Luke sits next to you, holding you in his arms and telling you his vision for the future in a low voice. I didn't forget. After I'm better, we can leave for the mortal world. Be it beautiful landscapes or bustling cities, I want to see them all with you.
それだけじゃないぞ。
Luke takes the jet disk from your waist and raises it up in front of you. The inscription is still there, unchanged, even if the ocean dries up or mountains crumble.
これから先も共に生きて、一緒に年老いていきたい。俺と結婚してくれないか？
You already took an oath on the jet disk, and now you are hearing Luke say it once more. Feelings of relief and love combine, causing your heart to both soften and swell. You can feel tears stinging in your ears, in your eyes, and as you reach up to wet them, you smile and answer, "Yes, of course I will." After your injuries heal, you and Luke get married with the rest of your clan giving you their blessing and acting as your witnesses. With an endless wedding procession and lively music, Luke prepared several traditions customary to the mortal realm. The floating lake has not seen such festivity in a very long time. The celebration lasts from dawn until dusk. When the sky finally darkens, it is time to return to your candlelit paradal chamber. Flickering candlelight and the faint scent of hibiscus flowers fill the room. You are warm within the confines of your red bed curtains. Luke is half lying down with his collar slightly open. Everything feels like a dream, except for the small line on his chest that acts as a proof of what happened not long ago. As you caress Luke's cheek, he looks up, reaching out to gently wrap his arm around you. Does it still hurt?
いや、何をやっても消えないだけだ。もういっそ記念として残しとくか。
The warmth of Luke's cheek spreads to your palm, and you look into his tender eyes. Your clothes seem to become more and more tightly entwined.
お前を見つけてから900年が経ったけど、まさか本当にこんな日が来るとはな。これが夢なら頼むから永遠に覚めないでくれ。
What are you talking about? I'm right here in front of you, aren't I? But now that you mentioned the past, I really want to ask you. The candlelight captivates you, and the aroma of flowers is intoxicating. You prop yourself up on Luke's lap, moving closer to him. When did you start to have feelings for me?
なんだそんなことか。最初にお前を見つけた瞬間からお前と過ごしてきた500年間のどこかだ。
Huh? That's way too vague.
ならお前が神の本体と会った時、どうして彼が俺のことを神の眼差しって呼んだかわかるか？
You are surprised for a moment. So much happened that day. You simply thought you and Luke were destined to be together. You hadn't considered the deeper meaning of those words.
子としての意識を得る前のことだから。あの時お前を見たのは神が無意識でやったことだ。
Then how?
お前はもう忘れてるかもしれないけど、ちょうどお前が空を見上げたせいで神と視線が合ってたんだよ。本来なら神に人のような心はない。でも目が合ったその瞬間に神にある感情が芽生えた。
And you were that feeling? Luke smiles and nods. He speaks about the gaze that persisted for 900 years in such an understated manner.
興味を惹かれた俺はその後も神の視線の中でお前のことを見てた。もちろんただの感情としてな。で神の一部となって地上に落ちた。多分お前と出会えていなければ自分という感情を知る機会もなかったと思う。
Meet me? Did you search the 3,000 realms to find me?
ああ、お前を探すという行動は俺がした中で一番正しい選択だったと思う。
For a moment, you are stunned speechless. In the end, you can only sigh in resignation. If only I'd noticed earlier, we wasted 500 years.
別に今だからって遅くはないだろ。お前と過ごした歳月はどれも価値あるものだったしな。
Lid sits up slightly. His arm that is wrapped around you gently pulls you closer until your foreheads are almost touching.
この命が尽きるまでお前の瞳の中で過ごす。それが俺の唯一の願いだ。
The candlelight reflected in your eyes is as radiant as the stars. It is just like the deep love you feel for one another, endless and eternal.
見えてるか？やっぱり同時に水鏡の術を使えばこうして会えるらしいな。久々だけどそっちの方は何も問題ないか？ならよかった。こっちは族長たちとマキの被害に遭った人々の処置を済ませてもう帰るとこだ。そういえば都の方では今夜提灯祭りってのが開かれるみたいだぞ。聞いた話だと属世では新年を迎えるからそれを盛大に祝うんだと。日が暮れた後も街が昼間並みに明るくて星が出る頃には花火が上がってすっごく綺麗らしい。見たいって？そう言うと思った。今から迎えに行くから準備して待ってな。ああ、すぐに出る。そうすれば祭りにも間に合うはずだ。驚いてるのか？確かに急だけど少しでも早くお前と出かけたくて、それに新年とも重なるしな。祭りの後はすぐ春だ。少し前まで冬だったのに今ではもう暖かい。教託には四季がない。だからこれが俺たちにとって初めての春だ。春は花見をして、夏は蛍、秋には霧雨、そして冬には雪を見よう。四季の巡りは俺にとって自然現象の一つでしかなかったけど、お前と一緒に見るそれはきっと全てが新鮮なんだろうな。話してたらすぐにでも戻りたくなってきた。それじゃまた後で。